How's it going, everyone? It's Javi from Weather SpongeBob 1000, and in this video, we're going to determine how many snowstorms you should experience in the United States this winter. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. So to begin, let's take a look at the daily snow extent, and as you can see, throughout the Northern Hemisphere, we're seeing a large area of snow cover extending from Canada and even into the United States, and comparing that to what's the typical average during November 9th, we see that there's a lot more snow than average throughout Canada and the United States and a large portion of Asia as well. And what this means is that we're more likely going to experience a weaker polar vortex this year, which would indicate that we're more likely to receive more snowstorms and more active than usual winter when it comes to snowstorms, because during a weaker polar vortex, we see more jet stream dips, the westerly winds become weaker as a result of a decreased amount of instability right around the mid-latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere. So as a result, the cold air that's typically centered around the polar regions is more likely to dip southward into the United States, bringing more cold and snowstorms into the United States during the winter time. So since we're seeing a larger area of snow extent than what we typically see on November 9th, we're more likely to be in a more active than usual winter, which would allow more snowstorms, which would increase the chance that you're going to experience more snowstorms this year for the United States. Now, the next thing we're going to need to take a look at in the United States will be the North Atlantic Oscillation. And typically when there's a weaker polar vortex, we're more likely to see the jet stream dip a lot further southward, and we're more likely to see a negative North Atlantic Oscillation. As you can see, during a negative North Atlantic Oscillation, we see more enhanced jet stream dips, bringing that cold into the United States, as well as more snowy than average conditions, which of course will enhance the chance you're going to experience more snowstorms than average for much of the northern United States. So that's going to be something we're going to need to pay close attention to head into this winter, that thanks to a more probable possibility that we're going to see a weaker polar vortex, we're more likely to see more snowstorms move through the United States. Now, another thing we also, of course, need to take a look at is the average snowfall patterns during La Nina years. And as you can see, for much of the northern United States, we typically see a lot more snowfall than average during a La Nina than the typical average over a long-term period. So as a result, we should expect more snowstorms than average, of course, since we see more overall average snowfall accumulation than average for much of the northern United States, especially the northwestern portion of the United States, where we typically see a Pacific jet stream move through, bringing a lot of troughs to the Pacific Northwest, which brings a lot more snow than average and snowstorms in general. And this includes northern portions of the Midwest as well as the northern portion of the Northeast. So that's something to keep in mind. And the only areas where we see less snowfall than average during a La Nina year is right around the southwestern portion of the United States and portions of the Appalachian Mountain ranges. However, thanks to the fact that we're going to be in negative North Atlantic Oscillation, I still believe that a large portion of the Northeast, where you typically receive less snow than average during a La Nina, will still experience higher snowfall than average, thanks to the fact that the polar vortex is expected to be weaker this year. If we were actually to compare the rank of this year compared to other years, this year, when it comes to snow extent, is one of the at this point of the year is one of the highest we've seen in quite a while. So as a result, we're more likely to see a weaker polar vortex this year, and as a result, more jet stream dips and more snowstorms for much of the United States. And the La Nina pattern will only encourage that by bringing more jet stream dips to much of the northern United States, as well as the Pacific jet into the Pacific Northwest. Now, another important factor we're going to need to take a look at is what typically happens during a La Nina in general. So we typically see warmer and drier than average conditions for the southern United States. So of course, the chance that you'll receive as many snowstorms this year is definitely reduced in the southern United States, thanks to the fact that it's simply warmer and drier than average. And also there's another data point that I'm about to show you right now, which will pretty much discourage snowstorms even more from happening in the southern United States. But in the northern United States, we see a variable polar jet stream, and we see more jet stream dips, which typically brings colder than average conditions to the northern Midwest and more moist than average conditions for the Ohio River Valley and the Pacific Northwest. So as a result, we're more likely to see more snowstorms than average for much of the northern United States during a La Nina. Now, another thing that's very important that we're going to need to pay close attention to this winter is the drought monitor, which of course I've been talking about this over the past several winter season videos, that most of the United States is under a severe drought right now, especially if you're just to the west of the Mississippi River Valley, especially right around the Midwest and the West Coast, where we see the drought is at a very severe level at this time. It has subsided somewhat in portions of the Rocky Mountain ranges as well as the Pacific Northwest, where of course the effects of a La Nina are now starting to take shape, where we're seeing a Pacific jet stream bring a lot of troughs and snowstorms so far throughout the Rocky Mountain ranges. However, the thing is that majority of the United States still, at least the western United States, is still under a drought, so that will create big effects when it comes to this winter. And like I've been saying in my previous videos, it's very difficult for a drought to go away overnight. So it's likely that this drought will stay around even into the winter months, which will play a big role in terms of the amount of snowstorms you should expect this winter. And of course, if you're in a drought-stricken area, you're less likely to experience as many snowstorms, because not only because it's drier than average, but it's typically warmer than average during a drought, because dry soil heats up a lot quicker than moist soil does. So as a result, we're likely to see the temperatures become too warm for as many snowstorms to impact you guys right around the southwestern portion of the United States. And while portions of the northern Midwest and the Pacific Northwest are still under somewhat of a drought, I still do expect the drought conditions to subside over the next several weeks once the Pacific Northwest really begins to feel the effects of a winter La Nina. But for the southwestern portion of the United States, a La Nina pattern will only exacerbate those issues when it comes to the drought. So as a result, you're less likely to receive snowstorms pretty much if you're anywhere south of maybe the Wyoming-Colorado border, where the drought is very severe for you guys, and that's where typically a La Nina brings much drier than average conditions. So that's at least something to keep in mind. And another thing to keep in mind is that a good portion of the eastern United States, while there are certainly portions under a drought right now, such as the Ohio River Valley, we still do see that a good portion of the United States is currently not under a drought. And that could be big, because since there's a drought right in the middle of the United States, there's of course a big ridge right around the Midwest, and that could influence the jet stream to where more jet stream dips are more likely right around the northeastern portion of the United States, because of course we're seeing a big bump in the jet stream right where the drought is, as a result of a very dominant ridge over the western half of the United States. So I expect more jet stream dips than usual to occur right around the eastern half of the United States, since this ridge will create a big bump in right around the western half of the United States for a dip to be more likely right around the eastern half of the United States. So I do expect more snowstorms than average especially right around the northeast this winter. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, here's my total amount of snowstorm forecasts for the United States. So for in the areas in red, you should expect over 30 snowstorms this winter, as it's for a lot of these places it's typical to receive over 30 snowstorms. In some areas you receive over 60 during winter. And keep in mind what I mean by a snowstorm. I'm pretty much defining a snowstorm as a snow event where you receive 1 inch of snow or more within a day. A lot of people might not consider that a snowstorm, especially if you live in the higher elevations, but 1 inch of snow certainly could cause major issues and still could cause havoc on the roadway. So even 1 inch of snow is definitely something to be aware of. But in the areas in red, you should expect at least 30 snow events where you will receive at least 1 inch of snow or more. This includes the northern Great Lakes as well. And I did extend the area of 30 snowstorms a little bit more for the interior Northeast because I do expect this winter to be colder and snowier than average. So the area of where you should receive 30 snowstorms is a little bit bigger than usual, but in a lot of these places you typically do receive over 30 snowstorms in a given winter, so it might not be anything super unusual for you guys, but expect more snowstorms than average in general if you're in the red, at least in the Northeast. Now taking a look just south of that, in the dark purple, you should expect 20 to 30 snowstorms. This includes the Albany area, as well as a coastal portion of Maine, extending to Pennsylvania, right along Lake Michigan, right around the Michigan coast, as well as Wisconsin and portions the northeastern portion of Minnesota. You should expect 20 to 30 snowstorms this year. Again, the area in the Northeast is a little bit bigger because I do expect more snowstorms than average. Just south of that, you should expect 15 to 20 snowstorms. This includes the bigger cities now, such as Minneapolis and as well as Milwaukee. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. And again, I did put this 15 to 20 snowstorm range a little bit further southward because I do expect more jet stream dips to occur this winter. 10 to 15 snowstorms. Now, this includes a much bigger population, of course, the large portion of the northern Midwest, as well as the Chicago area. You should expect 10 to 15 snowstorms, and this extends to New York City as well. Hartford, Connecticut will get involved, and pretty much just north of the Interstate 78 corridor along New Jersey and Pennsylvania, you should expect 10 to 15 snowstorms this winter, or at snow events where you should expect 1 inch of snow or more. So that's something to keep in mind. It's more than average for places like New York City and Chicago, so keep that in mind going into this winter. 5 to 10 snowstorms just to the south of it. This includes bigger cities like Philadelphia. This includes a coastal area of Massachusetts, Washington, D.C. St. Louis should receive 5 to 10 snowstorms this year, so definitely keep that in mind as well. 2 to 5 snowstorms just to the south of that, and then I meant to put with 1 to 2 snowstorms in the green. I apologize for that, but in the green you should expect 1 to 2 snowstorms this winter, so definitely keep that in mind. If you want even more in-depth forecast regarding the amount of snowstorms or snow events where you will receive 1 inch of snow or more in your specific location, just make sure to comment down below your specific location now, and I'll make sure to give you guys a more in-detail forecast regarding the amount of snowstorms you should expect this winter. So make sure to comment down below if you're interested. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content, and I hope you guys have a great day.